Hello, and welcome to Moonstone Mountaineer. My name is Gina, and I'm very excited to have you here. Today we'll be looking at Upper Pines, Lower Pines, and North Pines campgrounds in Yosemite National Park. To begin with, I'd like to touch on the amenities that each of these campgrounds have, some of the nearby attractions, and answer some frequently asked questions. To get right into it, I'll begin with saying that all of the campgrounds in Yosemite National Park are dry camping. There are no hookups available anywhere in the entire park. You'll have to do your own research on each individual campsite to see whether your equipment fits, whether your RV is too big or too small, whether your trailer will be able to maneuver in the campsite. Each individual campsite has all of this information on recreation.gov or call 877-444-6777 to get that information. There are hundreds of sites throughout Upper Pines, Lower Pines, and North Pines campground, and every single site is completely different from the one next to it. Please do your due diligence before showing up to the park. Nobody wants to be on a family vacation and have to go home because your rig doesn't fit. Now let's talk about amenities. There are flush toilets at every single campground, and in my experience, they're usually pretty clean, although just keep in mind that you are camping, so don't expect perfection. While there's no showers at the campgrounds, there are showers available for purchase at Curry Village at their front desk. I believe at this point in time, the showers are $5 per person. If you're interested in learning more about Curry Village, I did create an entire beginner's guide that I will link below. There is potable water at each of the bathrooms, as well as a utility sink, a faucet, and a water bottle filling station. There is a dump station in front of Upper Pines. This is the dump station you would want to use regardless of what Pines campground you are staying in. And there is a fresh water hose that you can use at that station. Now, because you are in Yosemite, as a lot of you probably already know, or if you don't know already, we do have some pretty active black bears here in Yosemite. Every campsite has a bear locker that you will need to keep all of your food and scented items in to make sure that we're keeping the bears safe and also keeping bears from getting into your vehicle, getting into your food, and tearing apart your stuff. If you're in a hard-sided RV, you can keep food and scented items in your refrigerator in your RV. However, you would want to make sure no food items are left out in front of any windows. So don't leave anything on your dashboard. You also want to close all of your windows and vents if you ever leave the RV. Again, I can't stress it enough. Yosemite National Park is bear country. This is the bears' home, and we're just visiting. Not only will storing your food and scented items properly in the provided food storage help out the bears, it also will help you from getting your car broken into and potentially getting up to a $5,000 fine. Scented items include trash, toiletries, anything like bug spray or sunscreen. Make sure your coolers are put away. Even if you have a cooler that claims that it is bear-proof, it is not. And you can still get a ticket for having that cooler out. The goal of keeping the bears away is to not habituate them to human beings. So even if the bear can't get into your cooler, the bear shouldn't be anywhere near human beings. So the scent will still cling to your cooler, and you need to have it in a bear locker. Also, side note, there was a time where a bear did take a cooler all the way to the top of a cliff. Maybe this is an urban legend, I don't know, but people claim it's true. A bear took a cooler to the top of a cliff, threw it off, broke the cooler that way, and gained access to the cooler's contents. Medicine is another example of a scented item that you wouldn't typically think of, but you do need to store in your bear locker. Also at each site is a picnic table and a fire ring that does have a grill on top. As far as firewood goes, you are allowed to gather any downed or dead wood that is within the campground boundaries, as long as it fits inside the fire ring, and you can use that as firewood. There is also firewood for purchase available at Curry Village, as well as the main store in Yosemite Village called the Village Store. Make sure you check what the fire rules are for the time of year that you're visiting. For example, during the summer months, there's typically a ban on burning fire in the morning. Typically, in years past, fires have only been permitted from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is not just because it's fire season, but also because the smoke does not clear out of the valley in the morning, which means if everyone were to have a fire in the morning in the hundreds of campsites that there are in Yosemite National Park, there would not be clear skies, there'd be no good pictures to be had, and it would just not be a fun time because it would be harder to breathe. Typically around October through April, the fire restrictions do lift. However, I would implore you to look up the specific times and dates for that before you visit. It can change at any time. Now, when it comes to pets, just know that there is a pause on pavement rule in Yosemite National Park. So if you do bring your pet, you are going to be pretty limited when it comes to what hikes you can do, if any. Most of the paved hikes are very easy and short. All of the hard hikes, you are not going to be able to bring your pet on. This is to protect the local wildlife as well as the natural resources. If you do decide to bring your pet, just know that it is within the campground policies that you cannot leave your pet unattended at your site or within your RV alone, unaccompanied. In my opinion, I don't think that I would ever bring a pet to Yosemite National Park. I don't think it's the place. There's a lot of areas that you're not going to be able to enter with your pet, and you can't leave your pet behind in the campground. So if possible, I highly recommend that you leave your pets at home. Now I'd like to discuss each individual campground and give you my personal opinions on why I do or do not like them. First off, I'd like to discuss North Pines. North Pines Campground is my favorite campground because it is situated between the Tenaya Creek and the Merced River. This means that there are some campsites that border the water, which is really nice during the summertime, and especially the campsites in the back of the loop. They have the most absolute gorgeous views. I will say, however, that because of its location in between two waterways, North Pines is the first campground to flood if it's that time of year. For example, in 2023, we had a really bad winter in Yosemite, so over half of the sites in North Pines did end up flooding. If this were to happen to a site that you reserved, they would cancel that site and give you a refund. However, you would be out of a place to stay for that night. Springtime and early summer are typically when there's a possibility for flooding, and of course it depends on how much water we got for the year. Most flooding is due to snowmelt. Another perk of North Pines Campground is that it's fairly close to the Mirror Lake Trail as well as the Ahwahnee. I like that you can go to the back of the campground and cut through Backpackers Camp to get to the Ahwahnee. This is a really nice walk, and it makes it really convenient to get around the valley. Next up, we have Lower Pines Campground. I really like Lower Pines because it's so close to Curry Village. In fact, it's the closest of all campgrounds to Curry Village. You can literally just walk across the street and you're pretty much there. That's where the firewood is sold, and also where like the pizza deck and all of the other restaurants are. In the back of Lower Pines, there's also this wonderful boardwalk that features views of Half Dome, North Dome, Washington Column, and Glacier Point. Moving on to Upper Pines, the biggest of all of the campgrounds, I really enjoy that there's a seasonal creek that runs through the back of the campground. During the off season, usually starting at some point in October through April, sometimes a little bit of May, Upper Pines will be the only campground that is open, and it's only the first 2 loops that remain open during that time. So just a heads up, if you want to visit October through April, you might want to try and reserve the first 2 loops of Upper Pines. To reserve the campgrounds, it's very important to know how the system works. Every campground is available to reserve on recreation.gov. The trick to getting one of these campgrounds is to be online at 7 a.m. Pacific time on the 15th of the month, 5 months ahead of time, for the dates that you're looking to book for. Just be aware that these campsites do sell out within minutes when they're first released. So if you don't get something within the first few minutes, 5 months in advance, your next best option is to play the waiting game. Keep refreshing on recreation.gov whenever you can and see if anything ever pops up. If something does pop up, you'll want to book that reservation as quickly as possible. Getting a campsite in Yosemite National Park is extremely competitive, and these are some of the busiest campgrounds in all of North America. To circle back to the perks of Upper Pines, I do also want to say that it is nice that it is so close to the Mist Trail, which is a very popular trail in Yosemite National Park. This campground also is the one that has the dump station. Now, something that I would like to mention is that all 3 of these campgrounds are right next to each other. So all of the places that I mentioned, Curry Village, the Mist Trail, Mirror Lake, the Ahwahnee, while some campgrounds are a little bit closer, you're relatively in the middle of all of that regardless of what campground you choose. They're all very ideally located in the valley. In front of Lower Pines is stop number 18 for the free Valley Shuttle. It's an easy walk from all 3 campgrounds to that shuttle stop, and the free shuttle will take you anywhere you want to go in the valley. This includes taking you right to Yosemite Village, where the visitor center is, or you could go all the way out to El Capitan, or circle around and go to Curry Village. I did make a beginner's guide to Yosemite Village if any of you are interested, and I will link that below as well. This pretty much concludes my Upper Pines, Lower Pines, North Pines campground video. I will say, however, there is another campground in the valley, and it's called Camp 4. I won't go into too much detail right now because I do plan to create an entire video just on Camp 4. However, I will say that this is an option if you're willing to tent camp. You do have to walk to your site, and you cannot sleep in your vehicle or bring an RV if you want to camp in Camp 4. But if you're tent camping, it is a very good option. If you want to learn more about Camp 4, or if you just really enjoyed this video, if you think it was helpful, please subscribe to get notified when I do release more videos. I have a lot to say about Yosemite, and I think that my information can be very helpful. Comment below any questions you may have. I really enjoy answering those. And other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for watching.